Hello and welcome to a project that's been ongoing since the early 1990s, so naturally you're going to come in the middle. What this is some daily updates that I recorded on my mobile phone just to capture what I was up to. There are other films which follow a theme or follow a project all the way through, so this is literally me walking around the shed talking to myself, holding the phone out. So I hope you enjoy it. More than anything, I appreciate the comments, and on this one in particular, the format. Put some subtitles in because this is some months ago and I've learnt a fair amount. Tom says no one talks about tidying the garage and what existential angst that is. And here's not a mystery jar, but a jar with a label, Flora tail attachment, 17th of March 2022. So I kept the car as a whole for decades. I could get in, turn the lights on, within a few minutes get the engine started. And the difference between a collection of parts and an actual car is huge. So it was a big deal to start taking it apart and massively devalue the thing. And I saved all of these in case I wanted to put it back how it was, but I don't. So hose clips, wire clips with sharp edges, absolute nightmare, bin those. Weird bolts that I wouldn't be able to find a spanner for, and odd thread sizes and little bullet connectors. All of that stuff is just going to go straight in the bin before it causes any harm or confusion. So things like this template, lots of fun to do, and quite a pretty thing in its own right. But I'm going to get the screws and the brackets back, and pre-sorts, so brackets will go together, and then I'll work out those will go in one jar, those will go in another. All my normal size bolts, washers to sort. So eventually I'll tip those out and put those away in one go. Little screws jump out, the 16s and the 20s. The others, I'll tip those out in a while and sort those separately. Now little self tappers and little teeny tiny screws, not worth doing, they go in the bin. These ones, I think this might be like my tail attachments, sort of weird imperial sizes, which maybe, on a day I'd need, so that they might just go in my coffee tin of miscellaneous. That's a nice memory of using it to draw around and mark up when I was down the other end, but also I like making stuff out of this. I'm looking forward to getting back to welding again. I had decades away from it. I'm pleased to be back. The other thing to talk about is legitimacy of using, making wooden templates. Unless you've got a really accurate drawing of the chassis, it's very hard to do, and it can be just a couple of millimeters make all the difference with these sorts of things. So working it out on the real car, there's really no substitute for it. And at Brooklands, they've got an aircraft museum, and they've got a model shop, they call it, which is full of these full-size wooden mock-ups of cockpits in different layouts where people have been trying to work out how to make it all fit. And I think it's important when you're trying to package things tight. So this thing's got all these funky angles on, and to get it all crammed in that tight, it is necessary. The next car I'll just have the engine, the pedals, the cabin, one behind the other. But I'm turning a four-seater into a two-seater, and this is a particular problem I've got trying to get someone over 6 foot into a size that I used to occupy. The other good thing with this is you can feel how rigid it is that way, but not that way. And you can see how stiff it is because of the structure, and how stiff it is because you're using really chunky steel and relying on the material. So that's interesting as you go. But it'll come apart. I'll have the screws back, I'll get the space back. Here at the Haynes Museum, and how John Haynes started his publishing group was writing a little guide to building an Austin 7. And this is that little Austin 7. So doorless, quite basic, little motorbike silencer on the side.
The challenges of the new millennium
My
are
interest
questioning how
today
innovations
is
have played to the Haynes
how he
brand
did the mudguard
and
stays, because
explaining the
that's
small
what
things
I'm up to
and
today.
building the subject matter
And he's
broadly
got
and
a tube
diversely.
coming up, bent over, and then a strap to triangulate it.
A significant redevelopment
And
in
then
2014
seems
saw the
quite sturdy for the
introduction of
headlamps.
minimise exhibitions, stunning new public areas including
Radiator
reception
quite a long way
lounges and
forward.
theatre, and of course the distinct
I'm pleased they haven't over
award-winning
restored it.
transition. My father's aim for the museum was to
Very
provide
basic
a place
little
that, in
dashboard.
his opinion, provides a
And what it
platform for
reminds me of more than
discussion
anything
and
are
gives visitors
low
a great
costs
sense
that
of
are being
journey.
made now.
He has left an extraordinary legacy
Mudguards
in
on the back,
museum
there's a
charity that will
bar
continue to
comes all the way
stimulate and
across
inform future
here.
generations.
And then this seems to have struggled because there's a bit of corrosion where the paint must have split.
Dad loved to talk
Handbrake
to
in the
visitors,
middle.
and they to him, sharing their
And there's
mutual
his
passion, just like our
750
friendly
Motor Club
carriage.
badge in the middle. It's a lovely little thing. Decided I can't keep all the scraps forever. We've got the first couple of bins full. Getting those through today. It's a satisfying job. Also a chance to look at the trailer which John Sutton built in 1967. I've got documents from January 1967, the month I was born. Him buying all the bits to make it. And he told me he had to weld the channel together in the middle. The bender that he had access to would only do those lengths of this size. So I refurbished it about 10 years ago. Take Trevor to event at Goodwood. It's just been in the way since, and hopefully Edward's car will be on it soon to move house, and eventually back in proper commission. But today is tidy up. It's been 5 or 6 weeks since I've touched the car. A lot of hedges to cut and the waste to get rid of. There's been a lot of fun stuff too, but it's still here and there's still space around it. But I was clearing some gutters in one of the sheds and moved some gearboxes, and there's an interesting difference. So on this one, here's the starter motor and then pinion flywheel inside the bell housing, and that piece of the casting is very close to the steering box. And what I noticed on the other ones is that piece is quite different. There's a much bigger hole. So I've got two here. So this one was to run it on a dynamometer, and the actual gearbox has been cut off, and then that's a hand clutch. And then here's one that hasn't been messed with. So there's the clutch lever. Here's the actual gearbox, the oil filler holes, speedo drive prop shaft. So it might be putting a different sort of gearbox on solves the problem. Probably causes this whole load more. And there's a guy, Metal Shaper Tom, who's got a Reliant engine and box and an Austin chassis that he's putting beautiful bodywork on, because that's what he does. But he had problems with the clutch. There's another YouTuber who helps him out. I think he's called Way Out West, who helped him. It ran and then it broke, and sort of flywheels and clutches and things can be a little bit different. I'm so pleased I put these dummy gauges on because it looks so much more alive, and I'd forgotten that that's where I thought the mobile phone should go, which then means some power to it to keep it alive. I've got a list of all the switch gear that I want. I just haven't pulled the trigger to order it, but it's still here. Still got space. So that was August and now's December, and I've learnt how to edit a video. So here are a few more photos from Haynes looking at his lovely car. It's nice that they haven't over restored it, and you can see the paint finishes, rattle can spray and brush. You can also see the bits that have failed, and from that see more clearly how it was built. He was a fastidious kind of guy, so things like the dash, it's all very neat and tidy, and it was nice just to be able to get right around it and see underneath, and also see the Sprite, which was the first Haynes manual. So next time we've got Leo, who's another lanky Bristolian, comes and tries it for size. And then I get the trailer out, which hasn't been used for about a decade, so I was a bit nervous. Got it ready to go, and my godson Edward came to borrow it. He was surprised just how small the trailer is, but of course it's designed to take an Austin 7. And it was built by John Sutton, who was a racer, builds everything really, really light. That went well, which was a great relief. And his little car's moved from his parents' back garden to behind his new house, where he's got a lovely big carport. So there'll be lots more on that build, which has been going since he was 11, which clearly he isn't anymore.